Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy, Player X.
And the Lone Wolf.
And together we are the united force of the Semi-Limited podcast.
Fuck yeah.
Just as usual, shout out to all the viewers and everyone listening to us and tuning in. Everyone showing love. Everyone following the Discord, following all the social sites. We love you. Appreciate you. Couldn't thank you anymore. Also, shout outs to Unplugged Gaming in Manlius, New York. You can be sure to check out their Discord server in the description box below. I will have it plugged in. You can go on there and check out all of their card games that they have available, such as Yugioh, obviously the top standing, high and away best card game ever existed. And then they also have things like One Piece that Dylan likes to dabble with every once in a while. You know, the secondary cards. They have things like Digimon and Pokemon as well, so be sure to check them out. They're also sponsored one of our giveaways coming up soon, so be sure to go down there and follow their Discord. And then also, while you're down there, be sure to follow our Twitter and TikTok, which is in the link tree down below. You can click that and get direct access to all of our social sites, the podcast access, everything, merch, all that stuff. So you can go down there, click on the Twitter and the TikTok, and follow us at 50 followers each. We're going to be doing a giveaway, whether it be, a new set of cards, maybe a play mat, maybe it might be some merch that we got left over hanging around. You never know. So be sure to follow us and find out.
Like you said, we're doing that Wild Survivors giveaway. That is going to be at 50 TikTok or Dead Format Twitter followers. Again, just follow our social medias in the link tree below. Semi-Limited podcast usually is the tag for all those. The handle, I should say. The drawing will be the first week of July.
That's coming up.
Send us your most wild nudes. Your most wildest favorite picture of you holding a card or your favorite card and a description of why. Inbox us to any of our social media sites. You have to be following us to win, guys. No free rides here. Life ain't fair.
Yeah, neither is Semi-Unlimited. Yeah, we're not fair at all. But as you said, all that shit, follow it, click. You guys know what to do. I don't have to say this again.
Follow that up with the merch. You heard Xavier say there's some out. It's out officially. So go check out the Xe link in the link tree below. Semi-limited hoodies, mats, pins, you name it. You can get it there.
That's right. You name it, and it's ready to go.
Besides anything that we didn't just say.
Like, honestly, yeah, shout outs to 7 South and her Etsy for literally putting everything together. But you can get shirts, hoodies, zip ups, zip downs, mat pins, bag pins, whatever you want. You let us know, you let her know, and she will deliver for you. So shout outs to 7 South. With our last shout out going to our special guest today. So I've reached out to this man several times, and he's ignored my messages. But it took Albert Park, our very own Syracuse local, to get top 32 at the YCS to get his attention. But we got him, boys. We fucking got him. Without any further ado, please give it up for Yugioh.
Clap.
How's it going, everyone? Hope that you're all having a good day today. Just happy to be here.
Absolutely. I think we're happy to have you here as well. Before we get started, do you have any shout outs or any plugins you want to give out to anyone, or any sponsorships you want to give a quick shout to?
As my always sponsors right now would be Sleep Chief and Dragon Shield. It's so great to have my 4 sponsors. Imperium, Dragon Shield, Sleep Chief, and Gem are all just very great for the channel, and I do appreciate each and every one of them for being around, and that's a good way to directly support me too. So if that's something that you are interested in doing, definitely go ahead and check them out. Beside that, we are 100 subscribers away from 18,000. So, if you want to check out the channel, it's free to sub.
That's right. So while you're clicking on our shit, go click on his shit. Simple as that. He's 100 away, people. Let's go. Get him to road to 20K. 100's not enough. So before we start, I kind of have a question, because you actually have a decent following on Twitter. And Galoni has said for many episodes that Twitter is a dead platform. He doesn't like the Yu-Gi-Oh Twitter area. And it's funny because I find it very how do I word this? Cringy but also very knowledgeable to a certain extent as far as like direct contact with like the people that you enjoy following. So like, what is your take on Yu-Gi-Oh Twitter? How do you stand on that?
So I never really liked Twitter in general, just because like I don't really care to be on most social media, to be completely honest with you. And then I got my YouTube going and I started looking at it more so as like always finding connections and being able to talk to everyone that I can. I've actually met a lot of friends through Yu-Gi-Oh! Twitter, and I think that it's a really cool way to get involved in the community because there's not a whole lot of places that you can just openly talk with a ton of different people that play Yu-Gi-Oh! So the second that you start like really getting involved with Yu-Gi-Oh! Twitter and finding out like who's all on there and being able to comment on a lot of like the different posts you see about the format or talking about even cards like Pot of Prosperity have been a really hot topic lately. I think that it is really fun to be a part of. So I like it. I think that's nice.
I told you, Dylan. It's not dead yet.
No, Twitter has its own. No, Twitter users are Twitter users. They're still there, but they're dead. They're dead followers. They have their own.
They
people.
are Twitter users. I think there's a bunch of different people on Twitter, dog. Let's getting into the actual episode though. Just appreciate you having the hour to come chat with us and whatnot. But we kind of wanted to know, a couple of us that are locals, like how much time does it really take to put into like your breakdowns and like not even like your breakdowns, more like your content creation in general, because your breakdowns are, I guess, what you're more known for. If you guys listening are unaware, GGYGO does breakdowns like where to hand trap, preparations for certain events, what are good tech cards and stuff like that. So he puts out a lot of content as far as like competitively. So like, what do you do to like put your time in to get those started from start to finish?
So it usually goes in three parts for me. Usually I have a couple different things that I have to consider first. So like for the first part would be like I have to make slides because all my content is based off of PowerPoint. So that's something where it's not exactly PowerPoint. I do like my own type of thing, but I really like to be able to display information as clearly as possible because I know learning this game can be really difficult.
Mhm.
Definitely the hardest card game available. If you want to go check out all the other card games and you've already played Yugi before, I promise you they're very easy to pick up. I can play almost every card game that's out right now, very efficiently, just even off the bat.
You play One Piece?
Yeah.
God damn it!
It's a great game, right? It's fucking a fantastic
It's
game.
fun.
Yeah.
Just to piss Xavier off, what do you think of set 3 dropping?
So I'm not really like too delved into it, but like I do like the game. I played a little bit of it. I played like the red deck, which is like the Rookie Rush from Digimon, so it's very similar. So I don't know. I just like how the game plays, honestly. Like having Dons and like getting to 10 is pretty easy. So it's
So
good.
good. I think it's Bandai's best product for sure.
Bandai's best product. It's Bandai's best product.
It's pretty fun.
He'd be loving his One Piece shit.
Yeah, so I have to consider like what I want to be on the slides and what I want to add onto those as far as making them like not super overcomplicated. And if they are, then I'm breaking it down to like multiple slides on like one topic just to make sure that I'm hitting each topic at like a easily consumed rate, right? Like because I feel like if you put it all in one, it just gets confusing. There's a lot of getting that all together, and then I have to like position it in a way where it flows well because I don't want to like go on one topic, then go to a different topic, then a similar topic. Like I want to be able to do it all in one swift motion. Then I'll record, which usually takes me a couple different takes because I'm more apt to delete an hour-long video because it wasn't up to my standards. And then I'll go back and edit. And when I'm editing, I'll always try to cut off anything that is like really rambling or like something that I don't really care to keep on there. Like my striker guide, for example, is 4 hours long. I crushed it down to an hour and a half. So that's something where you really have to make sure that you're only putting out the content that you really enjoy, and that can really be a lengthy process. I don't have an editor or anything.
Indeed, it can be. Shout out to everybody who edited their own shit because that shit is no joke. I once thought that it was a joke. Oh, what are you doing? You're clicking some buttons, you're hitting some slides, you're good. Nah, that shit is quite intricate. So, although you say you want to make it very consumable, it is jam-packed full of information that even if you were to like maybe on like a drive to an event, just happen to pop in and you guys are all listening to it, you could learn a lot. And I would almost guarantee that at least one of the things you've talked about will occur at an event that you're going to, prior to when it's dropped. So I commend you. Kudos.
Yeah, and there's so much research that goes into it, right? Like I don't just like bring up things out of the blue that are like random or not truthful. Like these are things that I like will sit on DB all night and watch all the games. I'll go to a regional and then I'll go to like a tournament and I'll just like check and watch what everyone's doing and like make sure that everything's very accurate because I don't want to just put out information that's gonna like prove you wrong.
No, because you know what's funny? I talked to a guy at our locals. His name is Brendan, and we have conversations daily almost about that. Like he kind of brought up the argument that if you're trying to start something up from scratch, it's hard when you're trying to take the competitive route if you aren't backed by any like accolades. Like if you don't have any tops, if you don't have any finishes, any trophies, no one's really going to kind of take your word serious. But my counter was always like, I'm like, that's kind of nonsense. There's people like Yugioh who maybe not be a YCS or something like that, but that doesn't discredit everyone like or the opinion who's ever just topped one regional. Like I've also topped the regional, top 32 to regional, but topped the regional. So I can say that I stay up to date on the meta and stay up to date as far as like the competitive like tech cards and lines of play and stuff like that, deck building in general. So would you agree with Brendan that although you can be well adversed in the format, that people would only take your opinion serious if you have like accolades following your backings, or would you just say that you should just take it at face value?
So I'll take this in two parts. One is that if you can't do, you teach. And that's something that I've heard a lot in my life, right?
Say that one more time for the in the back. Oh, I like that. Say it one more time.
It's like if you can't perform, but like you know all the information, like you can absolutely coach, but it doesn't discredit you as a teacher, right? Because like I have 14 years of experience playing this game. It's like having that much preemptive knowledge just to be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what you should expect. And if somebody ever looks at you and goes, listen, I don't value anything of what you have to say, it's just only damaging themselves. Because Yu-Gi-Oh is in a state right now where like it doesn't really matter what's all going on in the game. But I always tell everyone, and I was just talking about this in a previous video, I talked about this on stream, is that even if it's just someone from your locals that you're talking to and someone that hasn't even been to a YCS before, if they're telling you like, hey, I think this card's really good, stop for a second and ask them why. Because if you don't, then maybe they were ahead of the curve. Maybe they saw something you didn't. Even if it's something that you don't even remotely agree with, you should still keep your ear open and listen, because I feel like that's how some of the craziest ideas have started, right?
Yeah, 100,000%. Yeah, Matt, listen, Blizzard's actually a good card, Matt. Listen to me. He just co-signed it.
There's been a lot of cards where even Kurakara, when it was $6, in a video, I was like, listen, this card's $6. You should pick up this card. And then it was $70, you know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you should always listen to everyone. And I think the problem that comes from this is everyone has an ego. Whether or not people want to admit that they do, if you're saying that you don't have an ego right now, it just proves that you have an ego. And that's one thing where like if you're gonna let that get in the way of learning, whether it's from someone who just beat you at an event, that's only harming yourself. Like if you're at a regional and you get absolutely dusted 2-0 and they later on everything that you did perfectly, ask them what you did wrong. Ask them about a different tech option that you're playing if your list wasn't that great, because these are things that like even if you lose in an event, you should be taking with you. Like the biggest event of the year is coming up at nationals, and if you're gonna go to nationals and you lose and you just be mad all day that you lost and you didn't ask your opponents what you could change, then come next nationals, you didn't learn anything.
Exactly.
So you're going to get the same result.
I agree 100,000%. Me and you have the same mindset on that. Because that's exactly what I said to Brendan. He was kind of on the wave of like, yeah, well, if you're not really topping, if you're not someone like Pac where you're in or Shooping where you're contention for worlds, or like you're topping every regional, like everyone's gonna discredit you and never take what you're saying serious. And I disagreed with him and said, nah, there are people who, if they speak the truth, they speak the truth, no matter what their accolades or what their records are. Like if they could, like you just said, see something that you're not looking at because you're only looking at what the top tier minds are looking at. Like things fall through the cracks. So I agree. But I just wanted to make sure that we stood on there. So you saw that, Brendan? He agreed with me too. All of Syracuse is wrong. I just want everyone to know that.
I'll say Brennan's stupid for that. I mean, a lot of people can fucking just not perform when pressure's on too, and they can have so much knowledge of the game.
Yeah, people like Gentili almost, and I don't mean to like shout him out in a bad way, but there are some people who are very, very high knowledge of the game and can instruct you as to like what you should do. But when it comes down to making it, when the clock's on, when you got people who are coming around your table, and now you thought the game that you were just playing between you and your opponent is now like 7 people are watching you, like all having their own side conversations, wanting to know the game state. You got to make your move. The time is ticking. You got to make all these lines of play around your opponent, still read off them. Like it's a lot to deal with when you're in person. So it's, as you just said, like you can kind of get the jitters, and like you may make some mistakes that if you were on paper you wouldn't have made those mistakes because you have a clear head. Like it's different when you're in that arena.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look at the Harlem Globetrotters. Those dudes don't miss, but you don't see them balling in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho, what do you think contributed most to your quick growth and popularity?
I think that there's always a niche that needs to be filled, whether or not you can see it. And it's something where going to so many tournaments, going to so many locals, talking to my friends when they lose a tournament, when they lose a game, when they have a hard game. And I'm like, well, what'd you lose to? They're like, well, I ashed here and it did nothing. Or I would watch a game and they would like Valor something that literally didn't matter. They would do so many different things that I was just like, what are you doing? Like that you're just gonna lose because you like if you would have used this like a step later, you would have won the game immediately. And so that's where I came up with Where to Hand Trap. And I was making Where to Hand Trap videos for a moment before my channel blew up. And there was a time where, and this is completely true, this is a story that I've told only a couple times. So I would get a video that would go up that have 200 views, or the next one would be like 3,000 views, or I'd get like just under 1,000, and I was like hard stuck under 1,000 subscribers, and I just couldn't figure it out. I was posting content that I really liked, stuff that I really thought was what you needed to do, like deck profiles and whatnot, and like everything that everyone was doing. I was like, this is how you get views. This is how you like make a channel. And I was talking to my friends, and I was like really busy with work at the time in school, and I was like, I think I'm just done. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And we were talking about it, and they're like, well, just take a couple days, think about it, come up with a game plan and see what you want to do. And I was like, all right. So I came back 3 days later, and I was like, hey, I'm going to put everything I got into one video. If it does well, I'll keep the channel. If it doesn't, I'm just going to hit delete and focus on school, focus on work, do what I got to do. And I sat down and I really thought about what I wanted in my channel. And so I really like the idea of teaching. It's something that I really like to do. It's something that I really wanted to be in my channel. So
what were you I don't mean to cut you off, but just to clarify, like what were you going to school for? Like what was the decision between doing Yugi tubing and doing what?
So it's still actually teaching, but I'm still in school, but I just decided that it was fine to keep the other option open as well. To be doing
So you were just going to grind harder. You meant like you were going to commit more time if this video did well.
Yeah. So instead of taking like 4 credit or like 4 classes, take like 6, right? And just like get everything done.
Okay. Okay.
But I was like, no, it's nice to have a hobby. It's nice to have something that you really enjoy doing. So I put everything that I thought that I wanted in the video into my Where to Hand Trap series. And I was like, I know how I can do this better. So I made one large video and I was so proud of it. It was like, I think it's 20 or 25 minutes long. And I posted it, put my phone down and made myself some food, sat down, and I was sitting there and I was like, all right, it's up. And 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing like real hard. And I was like, the only time that ever happens usually is like when you start getting like comments on your videos, because it'll like email you after and be like, hey, you got a comment. And my phone vibrated even harder a minute later. And I was like, what is going on? And so when my phone started going off, I flip it over. I was up over 1,000 subscribers. My video was at 4,500 views and like 150 likes. And that video today sits at 55,000 views. So that was the blow up point of the channel. And, it's the way I say that too is the fact that I want it to be if you have an idea and you're kind of just following the same path as everyone else because you think that's what success is, try to find your own way of doing it. And I know that you might have heard that before, but it's true. There are different ways of doing content. There are ways that you can put your own spin on things. And I was really blocked, what I feel like, by what I've seen other people do. That's why I never compare myself to anyone else in the Yugi sphere, because like I'd rather see everyone blow up, and I'm not going to be like really not happy if someone else is blowing up and I'm not. That's totally not what I want to see. Like I want to see everyone do well. But the fact that I was able to do well with this video, it really showed me how creative you can be with content, and I was very happy with that.
I completely agree. I think even our podcast, we're still trying to find our niche, like workings and all that. And you definitely go a long way with just doing your own spin on shit. Because we actually had a couple episodes where we were talking about this, how we're just still like kind of finding our own thing. Like in our group chats, I like to our team of 5. We're going like I want to be like the R-rated superstars of like fucking Yugioh. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
the bad boys. And that's what like we're kind of going for. But like you know what I mean. So we're still trying to find that rhythm. But yeah, I completely agree. Because you can watch like the top 5 creators and it's all the same shit, and that goes for any type of content, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh, just stupid Facebook stuff.
No, I agree. Like not to say the only reason I hit the subscribe button, but the only reason I seriously took his advice or even watched those videos is because I can tell as soon as I watched it that a lot of time and effort went into those. And I think it was at a locals. It was at a locals, or maybe we went to a Catscale regional where I just watched one of your videos, and as I said, we were either on the drive up there or to the drive to locals or whatever, and I wasn't thinking of it, but the same situation that you had said happened, and I remembered you. Oh, it was against Josh's Marine Cess. Shout out to Josh Schrock. It was against his Marine Cess deck, and you had put out a Where to Hand Trap against Marine Cess, and I didn't respect that deck enough to learn the ins and outs of it, and I watched your video, and you said, hit the one that searches the spell card, and I did that, and he passed, and I was like, yo, GGYGO, onto some shit, though. He really be knowing this shit. So I agreed that it does take you committing that time or even making that decision. All right, like you just said, you got to put everything you got into this. So we're doing the same thing with this podcast as well. Like our viewers know, our subscribers and followers all know that we're pretty raunchy. We're kind of out there. We are very, very open-minded, free speech, and we, as he said, are R-rated for a reason. Like we just like to be open and not non-judgmental. I really do feel like it's people like us who are going to be making the real waves in not only the Yu-Gi-Oh community, but any community we go into. Like even in your schooling, as you said, you're a teacher, so like the stuff that you're learning in Yu-Gi-Oh that you'll still be able to apply to teaching as well, and outside of Yu-Gi-Oh as well. So
yeah, I think that's pretty cool actually, how you're taking your like real life job and mixing it with your hobby, and you had some success with your channel. I actually didn't know like that's your profession. I don't know if anyone knew that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great, honestly. I love teaching. It's something that I think a lot of people don't want to do because, money, that's always going to be the number one thing when you're looking at professions and where you want to go. I feel like there's always been people's drawback to it. But for me, it's always just been one of those things where trying to help people out and show them like what to do, and even just like when it comes to schooling and trying to be like that one teacher that can really explain things better than other people can. Because I feel like sometimes you get something explained to you by one person, it sounds completely hard and it's something that you can't do. But the second that somebody else breaks it down for you, they're like, wow, that's really easy. Like I did not know that. So I think that's one thing that I've always been very good with, and that's something that I'll always take with me.
Exactly. I can still remember, I only have like 2 or 3 teachers that I really connected with way back when I was in high school. And I remember them to this day. So people have to feel like that with your channel. So, that's good on you.
speaking of which, you've kind of alluded to it, but just to get a definite answer, do you go to your locals? And if so, would you like to shout your locals out?
I go to Refined Gaming. I love Refined Gaming. They're great. I go there as much as I can. It's an hour away, but I go there all the time.
Well,
Jesus,
where's that?
It's in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay,
So if you haven't already
Ohio.
checked out Refined, I definitely would recommend.
There you go. Okay. And do you go there avidly? So
Damn,
you are a
bro.
locals goer?
2 hours.
That's a lot of
Yeah,
driving.
I try to. I try to.
Weekly 2-hour commute. That's commitment. That's
It's
pretty.
It is pretty far, but they try to be very accommodating. They just started doing double case tourneys too on the weekend, so it gives us another thing to just kind of do for the day.
Mm.
So that'll be like the morning case tourney and the night case tourney, and then it's all the homies. So then you can hang out with everyone all day and play some Yu-Gi-Oh.
Is it like a bigger locals?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what's your numbers if you're putting out double case tourneys?
So like the case tourney that we just had, it was 43 people.
That's a
So
lot. Okay, that's good.
it's pretty nice,
Yeah.
Ownership is great. It's always a really welcoming environment. It's a lot of really cool people, and always heavily recommend.
Okay, because that's kind of like how Rochester OTS Regional is as far in New York. So like where Crush Cards is, they like when they have that Millennium is like a bigger OTS when they have their OTS championships. It's about 50 to 80 people. So and same with their like PS5 tournaments, anywhere between like 40 to 50. So that's a good solid number. I just wanted to preface that just because I wanted to go into a quick debate because as we've alluded to, we talk about a lot of our local players because some people don't like or don't even think it's worth going to locals because you don't really gain anything. You're playing against like people who necessarily aren't really up to your bracket all the time. A bunch of like who I like to call donations, but like people who aren't playing to the top capacity, so you're not learning anything. So I just wanted to know like, do you think that the locals experience is important?
I think that it is because not only do you gain just a general community to be a part of, which is very important, especially if you want to travel to like events and whatnot, having other
Mhm.
people that you can travel with and other people that you know. I think that it's also very solid. Again, like I was talking about earlier, is kind of like listening to what everyone's doing, seeing what everyone's doing. You can play against a lot of variety of decks, and I feel like that's another reason why my Where to Hand Trap series is always so accurate because I'm not just playing against Kashtira and Tier all day. I'm playing against like
The Rikas,
Marinsas.
yeah.
I'm playing against, Sun Avalon. Yeah. So there's all these different decks where I'm like, all right, that's what that does. So like if you're playing against all these crazy decks at locals and then you go to a tournament, you're prepared. If you don't play against it at all and you go to a YCS and then you start playing against it and you're like, what does this deck do? You might catch a quick L. And that's something where you should at least go to locals and find out like what's going on because a lot of people at locals, even if you don't view them as the most competitive players, again, a lot of them have a very good idea of what the game is and how to play the game. So like you're going to run into a lot of situations where situations will come up and you can learn that for future events. And the last thing is you can go to locals and just test out the consistency of your deck. Like if something doesn't come up at all, or if you're just seeing too much of a card, or if you're looking at your sideboard and putting it in something that you're never really reaching for, that's something where you kind of learn just the proper ratios for your deck too. Just playing the deck in person before you play it in person, right? So I think that's really important. I like going to locals. I think it's important.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that with you because we our locals. I haven't been going lately just because of work and career things, and it just starts 30 minutes too late for me, unfortunately. But if we ever do go to a tournament and we run into that rogue hero player, you bet your goddamn ass we know how to play against that.
Yeah.
Shout out Mike Romer. And
Absolutely.
then we have another guy that plays Altergeist all the fucking time like a dickweed, and
Shout out
we're just
Barry.
ready for it, even though, yep. But yeah, I completely. That's a great way to put it. Because we've had people on this channel that actually say that it's not worth their time, and that's why I like how X always asks this question to the bigger people to see what they think. But I'm completely with you. I think it's totally worth it to go because you're going to progress to the upper tables of locals, and you're going to get the meta practice as long as and the rogue practice too.
And
Can't
like
agree
just
more.
to kind of interject too, if you ever see me at a local, feel free to come up and say hello. It's completely cool. I'm just another dude. Like just say hi. It's
Absolutely.
totally fine.
That's
Like
mad humbling, yeah.
I don't treat having a platform as having a platform. Like if you come up to me at a YCS and you want a theory, I'll theory. Like I don't mind. It's totally fine.
Yeah, to the people, he's actually being genuine. We were talking in our general chat. I invited him because we usually have like a scheduled time when we actually like to get into the chat and record. And I told him if he wanted to hop in there, because you can hop in our Discord in the Discord link down below. to hop into our Discord and come chat with us and hang out with us. And we were hanging out and talking for a bit, and he was not hesitant with his information. We were really throwing super crazy ideas. Well, what about this? I really like this card. I feel this is really good. I like this build. So he's really genuine. He'll really throw it down with you. I felt like I was in an episode myself, just having a chit chat with him, you know. So, you know, shout out to you for being like a mad genuine person. I love seeing it. I was talking to not remembering the name right now, but another local person, and just about the genuineness of like people who are on YouTube, and you are definitely one of the most genuine ones. I can tell you that. So
it's just, you know, one of those things where I really like the fact that I have a platform, and I really appreciate the fact that I have a platform, because without any view, I wouldn't have a platform. So I appreciate it.
So when you're not at locals, do you feel like you're on like DB a lot more? Like, do you feel as though you get more experience off DB than you would at locals? Like, are you losing more? Do you learning more? Is there a difference between online play for you and like at locals play for you? Like,
So I would say that playing on DV versus locals, they feel almost the same, but like playing on DB, you start playing against a lot more toxicity, like constantly.
oh no, there's some toxic niggas at locals, dog. I don't know if you got your locals is goody goody, but we've had some toxic moments, almost damn near fights, cards getting thrown about. We've had some wild shit happen. That don't happen on DB.
I mean, I've seen some wild shit at locals. I'm not gonna lie, not like my
Yeah.
locals.
Oh, okay.
I've been to many locals, but like not like my locals. My locals is very good
Yeah,
for
please
just having a good.
don't slander that name.
Yeah, no, my locals is very very good. But I've been to, I would say, 8 or 9 stores, and I've definitely seen different things at different stores, and that has been crazy.
Seen some bandit keeps out there.
It's wild when you're on DV, and then especially if there's like no judge online, you're just kind of like locked in the game and you can't leave until like a judge shows up to like answer the situation. Like it's unfortunate, but beside all of that,
bro.
like when you start hitting like higher ratings, like the higher ratings, right? I feel like a lot of that stops as much as it usually would.
Yeah, the more serious people are up there.
Yeah, and I think that it's really a lot better at that point, because when you activate a card, like they'll just do what the card does, right? Like if you like Regeki, they'll just throw all their monsters in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Or if you activate like or if they mill like 3 tier name, or if they mill like a tier name and like 2 cards, then you reveal like a Magnemite, they're not going to ask you which dark monster you'd like to banish. They're just going to banish the tier name, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like that understanding of playing against somebody who knows what they're doing. And I think that's always really good testing. And at my locals now, fortunately, I have a lot of people who are very good at the game. And so it's very nice having those matchups. Even at the past case tournament I just played in, there's a lot of higher testing that I can get done at locals. So it really depends on like who you're playing against and where it is. I prefer playing in person all the time. I like holding cardboard. I don't know about you.
Thank you.
It's just better. But like,
thank you.
If I'm on DB, I'm on stream usually, unless I'm like testing off stream. But usually I'm like just enjoying being with my chat and playing a couple games on DB. So it kind of is what it is, either or. I don't really think that one's better than the other. But I think the only thing that really matters at the end of the day is your theory. If your theory is correct, then usually you'll do very well. If your theory is very wrong, then you need to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I agree on that too. I could spin it back to so just part of community building and shit. Like I've been a part of like building the Pokemon community, the One Piece community, and I consider myself a top player, and so does everyone else. And like you said, like you just throw away that tier name. Like people at my locals don't do that yet, and they'll like completely choose to destroy or send back the wrong card. And I'll tell them like mid game, like even if it's a tournament, I don't care, like because you don't get the correct practice yourself. So when you go to that next level, you're like, did you really win against that deck, or did you just win because
if you coast your way up, it feels different. Yeah, you're right.
Let them know. I'm just like, hey, you should get rid of this card, and I'm totally cool with doing that. Like in fact, like I prefer you to do that, just so we both get the right practice. But yeah, I completely agree with you that higher level testing and teaching is definitely the way to go for that.
Yeah, I mean, not to bring it back to only me and Dylan, but like there's times where I'll play against like one of the newbies, and let's just say they had Ash and they Ash terraforming, and then I activate planet from hand in like I'm now searching going full combo. When if they Ash the planet instead of the terraforming, then they would have won. And there's times where I'm playing against a newbie and I gotta be like, well, you probably could have used that Ash better. And there's times where like I'm playing the mirror match against Jake and I gotta be on my fucking P's and Q's because I know that nigga's not even gonna Ash the terraforming or the planet, but he's gonna Ash the Theosis on some, because he knows the deck. You know what I'm saying? So like there's a difference when you have to coast your way up and it's like, yeah, all right, yeah, I just kind of like farmed my credit, but but versus, all right, now I gotta get put through the ringer. Now I'm going through, Dan. I'm going through Brendan. Now I gotta go play Albert. Then I gotta play Matt. Follow it up with Eric. You go through the ringer and you start really, experiencing what it's like to evolve and get better. Like I actually just beat Matt for the first time at locals in about 3 months. Like he's been on my ass every time we've played. He's just outwitted me or outplayed me, big brain me, and he always takes the W. But I eventually have learned what to do and made sure I had the better cards and what to keep in, what to keep out. And that only comes from playing against people like Matt in person. Like as DB was saying, like yeah, you can see people who just are automatically gonna move those cards, but in person it's different. Like people are gonna start thinking, they're gonna start hand shuffling. You gotta start reading people themselves rather than a screen where you kind of just have the thinking emoji sitting there. So I agree. In person is always 100% better. I don't care at what level it is. I don't care if you're playing at even a casual level. I really feel like in person is the best way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's the way it was intended. It's the way God intended. Let's be honest.
It's terrible when you're just trying to get some practice in and you do a misclick and then that whole 40-minute round is thrown just off that one misclick.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? That's happened to you, I'm assuming, G?
Yeah, I definitely had some games in DB too where like I think that like in person, I feel like people are more apt to ask for like help with their deck or what have you, or if there was like something that they did wrong. But I've definitely been playing against Striker, or sorry, I was playing Striker against a deck that had there can be only one in it. And I thought this was kind of funny because it was just DB, so DB is just testing anyway. And I don't care like what rating you have on DB, it's always just testing. It's not a YCS.
Mm-hmm.
And they pros for there can be against Striker, and I was like, you probably shouldn't do that. And it was funny because we got to game 3, and I told them in game 2, I was like, you probably shouldn't do that. And in game 3, they hard went for there can be again.
Yeah.
And then I have there can be my side deck. So I like won the game, and I was like, "This is why you don't do that." And then I sent a copy. I sent a copy of it from my deck to the grave. Like I cited in one, and threw it in the graveyard.
I wouldn't
and I was
even
like, "That's why you don't
it.
do it."
I was just about to say, I love when people main deck or side deck the floodgates that I'm main decking. I'll just side them out because if they're gonna keep them in, then fuck it. If it doesn't fuck with me, then you're gonna restrict yourself. All right, do you open that dead card in your hand. You go ahead, flip that TC Boo. Oh no. All right. So anyway, normal summon Ray. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was just like one of those things where I try to be as helpful as possible. So like one thing that you might not know is that if I'm at a tournament, I always have different playmats and sleeves on me. If I ever see somebody without a playmat or like without sleeves on their cards or like they're kind of beat up or they're like standard size, I'll toss them a pack of sleeves or like a playmat.
That's crazy.
I just want to make sure everyone has a great time and like everyone's going to be having like the best experience they can.
We need to protect Yugioh at all costs. Like I cannot be the only person.
I'm actively always trying to make sure. Yeah, I'm actually always trying to make sure that everyone's like enjoying the game, and that's something where fun story I can tell you. I'm gonna bring this up in a later video as well. Only a few people know this story. It's actually how I got started playing the game, and it's the way that I am now. Why I am the way that I am now. When I was 10, I went into this card shop. And I couldn't afford cards. I was 10 years old. But, I had like a couple cards that I just had, right? Just because, ask your parents to buy you something for Christmas or whatever.
See where the story's going.
And so I went to this locals all the time, but I didn't play because I didn't really have like a cohesive deck. So I would specifically go every Saturday just to sit down and watch people play. Because for me, it was just learning what I was doing or learning like what they were doing. I've always had a natural like urge to learn. And I was there for like 2 months, just going every weekend. And one day I walk in, the guy who runs the store was like, "Hey guys, we're gonna get started here in like 10 minutes." He goes, "Here's your pairings." And I was like, "All right, cool. Just about to go watch whoever." And he calls me up to the front and he goes, "You enjoying being at the shop?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty fun, just watching like what everyone's doing, trying to learn." And he's like, "Do you really want to play this game?" He's like, "You've been coming here now for a couple months." I was like, "Yeah, no, it seems great. Like I've always loved the show, like I always really wanted to play." And he was like, "That's good to hear." He's like, "Give me 1 second." I was like, "All right." He reaches into this drawer, pulls out a deck of cards and a pack of sleeves, and he hands them to me and he goes, "These are for you." And I was like shocked. I was like, "What do you mean they're for me?" He goes, "These are for you." He's like, "I just want you to enjoy the game." And I got the cards in my hand, I flip them over, and it's Horus, Silent Magician, and Armed Dragon, level mod, level up, like a whole like level deck,
Level
right?
deck. Okay.
It's still not very competitive, but
So was this donated by the OTS owner, or was it secretly donated by all the players because they've been slowly seeing you there and been donating cards because he was like the ringleader? You know what I'm saying? Like,
he said that it was like his favorite deck and he just wanted to give it to someone who would use it. So it
okay,
was
I know
really
what those are.
cool.
Okay.
And it still wasn't like super competitive, but it helped me play the game, right? Because it was a lot more cohesive than set of vanilla with like some random battle trap. Like that's all I had at the time, right?
Yeah.
But like this was a deck that had a strategy and a game plan. So I was like, all right, cool. You go like level 3, level up to level 5, like actually be able to do things.
Mhm.
And from there on out, like I would get destroyed at locals, but I had a deck to play at locals.
But
It
you were
was so
having
exciting.
fun.
Yeah, and so that's what really started me like wanting to play Yu-Gi-Oh like even more. And I've given away Invoke Shadal Dogmatica with Italian Invocations and Alistairs. I've given away Sun Avalon. I've given away Striker. Can't wait till everyone sees what I'm doing for 20,000. Oh my god,
Mhm.
that's like crazy giveaway.
You know what? Speaking of which, I actually, right now on air, I want to let you know that we, Semi Limited Podcast, are going to contribute to your 20K giveaway. I'll give cards, mats. We got box sponsorships from our sponsors over at Unplugged, which is another bigger locals in our area. So just to give you a heads up right now, I'm letting the people know we are going to be helping sponsor. Like I love everything about you, man. Like I love this whole aura, like this whole backstory, your come up story, the fact that you had that. I love talking to people who have that moment. Like I just got done talking to DP Yugioh, our last episode, and he had a moment where he was like, all right, I can either go to school or I could take this YouTube shit serious. And he chose the YouTube. And to see where his channel's grown and to see where your channel's grown, when you actually make the decision to go against the grain and it actually comes out on top, and like you're able to now give. I'm a very big supporter in that support amplifies things. If you're a piece of shit and you get support, then you just become a bigger piece of shit. But if you're a good person and you get support, then you just become a better person. And I love seeing people like that in the gaming space. It just is very, very refreshing. So just know that Semi Limited Podcast stands behind you.
I really do appreciate that.
Well, I'm not that big a piece of shit. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, Galoni's a bit of a piece of shit. He's not a big one, but he's like a Mr. Hanky. You know what I'm saying? He's right around here.
No.
But yeah, we just want to let you know over here, I'm 100% sold. We need to protect him. Support GGYGO. He's for Prez.
Hey, I really do appreciate it. I always tell people, and so I coach too over in Metafy, but all of my videos are literally just coaching sessions. Like my where to hand traps, my breaking down a format, going over end boards, what you could see. Like those are all just free to the community, like things that you can just watch and actively improve. And that's something that I really wanted to do because although if you ever want like one-on-one sessions, just like really going over things individually, I tell everyone that I do coaching for though.
Yeah, you have
is
a
that
Metafy,
after that session, I do.
Yeah, so you want to plug it in right quick?
Yeah, it's just Metafy GGYGO. What's really cool about that though is what I tell everyone is that Yu-Gi-Oh, especially coaching, it doesn't stop after an hour. Like there's never everything that you can learn after an hour. And I still have students today who will just send me their deck list and then I will just talk to them about what is things that I would change. And that's after a session. Like that's completely fine. Like feel free to PM me, I'll respond to you and I'll try to help you out the best that I can. I've had people get second at regionals. I've had people win or get top 8 at their nationals. And it's very exciting because that's coming back to what we were talking about earlier. I may have one top at the moment, I'm aiming for more, but it's still something where the amount of information that you can get from somebody who has just played this game for a very long time, has seen just about everything there is to offer in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can really learn a lot. And that's where everything that I do is just right back for the community.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you bring that up because we have a segment called People's Choice. And when we get there, you're going to be surprised at one of the questions. I'll guarantee you that. But moving on with some of the podcasts, just dibble dabble more on the competitive side and pick your mind a little bit more. Like, what are some of your predictions for what you might think that the Nationals top cut, whether it be top 64, top 16, even the finals? What do you think might even win it? What are you thinking might be up there in those top tables?
So if we're looking at like breakdowns of like top 16 is what I like to do whenever I'm looking for like practicing for nationals, or like a YCS. I always look at like the top 16 as far as things that I could expect. I think that there's going to be like 4 to 5 Cash Tira. I think as far as like winning the event, Cash will be in top 4 or the final for sure, just because it's Cash. And I think that there are a heavy amount of people who are going to be playing it regardless. Because just like myself, I don't like playing Cash at all. I think the deck's very boring, but at the same time, it wins. Like the deck just clears. But like beside that, I think that we'll end up seeing Rickus on Avalon in top 16. I think that deck's very good. It's still very insane that not a lot of people know what that deck does, so they just play against it and they just lose. They have a lot of lines to play through a lot of things, so it's something to keep in mind.
Including Shifter.
Yeah, they can play through Shifter, they can play through Droll.
Yep.
It's very scary.
Yep.
Make sure they have evenly matched. But so Rika is going to be popular. Probably another 4 to 5 Sprite variants we'll see. I think Sprite is probably the best pick right now. I personally don't like the Sprite cards. I don't really like how they work or how they interact. They're just not the type of deck that I would play, to put it that way. Just because like if you stop the normal summon like Ash the Sprite, like the starter, like they just lose. But I've seen that also where if they don't have starter and you just like Valor Beaver and book it, like they also just lose. So there's a lot of situations where you can still do well and play a deck like that, which is totally fine, especially with the Assault Synchron, because now you just get a free 2 that you can just summon for your hand for literally no effort, which is kind of cool. But beside that, I think that we'll end up seeing more of like the adventure variant. We'll probably see a small amount of the Melfi variant. And I think that we'll probably see little to none of the Live Twin variant. I think that's been really not favored. And I think that the For Hire variant is really cope. We might see like 1 or 2. But as far as like Sprite in general, though, I'm just going to like air quote Sprite. It'd be like 4 to 5 spots. We'll probably see a Flu. Somehow Flu always sneaks in there. Just always does. Can't wait to main deck Droll into Flu. Beside that, I think that there probably will end up being a Tier. Tier is still the craziest gamble deck ever, but when it goes off, it goes off. It's basically like not having Kit just means that you put up the board after Kit, which is still crazy. But it's just like Kit was a stepping stone to get to that end board. But like now, like you can still put up the same end board, but it's just again, it's a gamble. But that being said, those types of decks that'll be in the finals, I think that it'll probably end up being like Cash versus Sprite. And honestly, could go either way. I think that we'll see a lot more Cash lists without Shifter in it, because if you play against VS, play against Flu, again, Rika can kind of play through Shifter pretty well. You play against the mirror match. Like there's so many different decks that just don't care about Shifter. Not saying that it's not a broken card.
No.
But there's a lot of matchups that like it just does nothing. But I would expect a heavier Droll resurgence in this event. That's going to be at everyone's main deck again.
What about Nib?
Nib, I think it's going to be a heavier side option. I think no one respects that card.
I honestly think that I'd argue that Bell would be a heavier side option to stop to put the nail in the coffin against Branded.
I think that Bell has to be there inside because of Lab and for Branded. But for Lab and Branded, you'll always play Bell. For Cosmics is just because of the fact that you are going to play against like Runic. Otherwise, you'd be on different cards. I've seen somebody talk about playing Typhoon, and I thought Typhoon was like really cool last format because if they go like scale Prodigy, scale Monk, scale or like activate the Peacemaker, you could activate Typhoon from hand and hit Peacemaker, which was crazy because it's like almost Ash Blossom, right? Yeah, and then if they go Racial, then activate Birth, you could hit Birth. So there's a lot of cool situations with that card, but I don't really think it'll be that popular. I think everyone's sideboard right now is going to be like 3 Nibiru, 3 Bell, 3 Cosmic, and then it depends on what you're playing for the other 6. Probably a Floodgate for going first, so I'd say Annie Spell, and then something to go second, so like Dark Ruler or Evenly. And that's probably going to be pretty standard across the board.
Do you think Sword Soul's gonna sneak its way back in there again, or do you think that deck's finally put to rest?
I think that you'll play against it. I don't think that it'll top 16. It'll probably top 32. But let's be real. It'll probably be 64. There's going to be a lot of people.
I doubt even 64.
Yeah, it'll be like in the higher rounds, right? If it like even 1 slips in. But I don't think that deck is as good as like what the other decks are doing. Because it's putting up the one thing that Sword Soul does very well is it puts up a very minimal board. But even if we're talking about the resurgence of like Striker, right? And like that deck being around, Striker gives Sword Soul a rough time. And that's just because like their end board is Baron, Chi-Shao, Blackout, and that board's broken by Burner, Train, Anchor, and like any variation of that. So like the board isn't that crazy. It's the crackback that's scary because they can kill very quickly. But I've heard a lot of people talking about siding Lancia. I'm also siding Lancia, and that won me against Sword Soul last night. So it's one of those things where I think that it's gonna get hit in the crossfire, and also people being on D Shifter, like still just being in the format. That's another rough reason to like not want to play Sword Soul because Moya doesn't get its effect, and like all these cards, you can't even get the burn off long one. Like it's really unfortunate. So I think that deck just falls under too many cards that are being sided right now that gets hit in the crossfire.
Gotcha.
Before we close out this, I just want your thoughts on because we briefly talked about it, but just to get it on the record, what are your thoughts on Triple Tactics Thrust in the format as a card?
I think that card's bonkers. When it started off, that card is awful. That card didn't do anything. But now that we have cards like Daruma Cannon, we have cards like Engage in the format. You already know Strikers, man, 3 of that card. We have Talent that card can search, which is amazing. This format's run by Talent. Then you just have like so many different cards that you can thrust into. Cashier is doing it to increase their ceiling going second, so they can get the cards like Terraforming, so they don't just brick.
Yeah, Theosis, Terraforming, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of very good targets for Thrust right now. I think that card, if you have them, you're in a very good position. If you don't, try to borrow them.
Absolutely, I agree. I just wanted to make sure that we were both on the same page. Before we go into the people's choices, I just wanted a quick little tinker as to what you think might be in the 2023 MegaTins reprints this year, because we have a lot of announced sets. If for those who don't know, we have Creators, Battles of Chaos, Dimension Force, Tactical Masters, and Darkwing Blast were all announced and for sure about to be in the MegaTins. Notice how they did not say Power of the Elements, but you know, we're not gonna, that's neither here nor there. But what do you think might be in there from those sets, or what do you think that they might be able to sneak in from like a structure deck or even a side set that's not even on here yet?
I was looking at a lot of cards that are like way too expensive right now, just because there are a few out there that I'm looking at them right now and I'm like, oh my god, you know, like this is crazy. I think like we know that they're not doing. I believe that we know that they're not doing like Photon Hypernova. It makes me feel like if they're gonna do a set like that, though, I could see Thrust being snuck in there, just because like that's gonna sell that real hard.
Oh my god, yes.
But yeah, so like I don't know, maybe they don't and they save it for something in the future, which is also understandable because like that card, everyone's still gonna buy Photon Hypernova for that card because that card's insane, right? So like I don't really feel like it's really done its time yet as far as just being an expensive card. The 2 cards I've ever shelled out for were Droplet and Tactics, because both those cards were insane. And so like those cards definitely proved very well. I think Thrust is in the same boat. But now we've seen quite a few reprints for those cards, and I think that Thrust is going to end up at some point being in the same boat, being like overly reprinted. We're definitely going to see the Visuals. Let's be real; those cards are going to get super reprinted.
Yeah, I was saying that too.
Rebellion. But beside that, though, I don't really think there's anything that would like surprise me as far as cards from those sets. I think that by the time that comes out, we'll get another ban list, and I think Fenrir is gone. Like the
No,
OCG did.
don't speak that into ether. Don't say things like that.
Like the OCG did. So that's something I
say
was
things
actually
like
talking about. Because, like, listen, if Pankratops can't be at 3, Fenrir can't be at 3. The card's insane.
No,
like, Pank is better. I'm not
yeah,
gonna
Pink
lie,
is way.
but-
I was just about to say, I think Pink is better. But
yeah, I think that Fenrir just applies too much pressure, though.
it
Like,
does apply
that's
pressure.
the craziest.
Yes.
That's the craziest non-engine card I've ever read in my life. Like, I was in a situation against Skill Drain, and I was like, attack with Fenrir. He was like, that's cool. I'm like, Fenrir target Skill Drain. He goes, it's negated. I was like, I know, chain book. You know?
Yeah, I know, chain book. So anyway,
Anytime that your opponent goes, it's negated, just know that the second that you say that, your opponent already has a master plan behind what they're doing, right? Like,
Yep.
there is a reason they are using that effect. Shangri Euro effect, it's negated. I know. Field spell, pop. You're
Yep.
like, you know.
But Dylan, what do you think is going to be in there, Mister? Now, I'm in the format.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I said, yeah. What do you think is going to be in there, Mister? Now I'm in the format, but who knows for how long?
Being where? I'm sorry. I got lost in the sauce.
Oh, in the MegaTins. In the MegaTins.
Do we have anything announced right yet?
Yeah, literally. Great. This is what happens when you let potheads run shit. Yeah, Grand Creators, Battles of Chaos, Dimension Force, Tactical Masters, and Darkwing Blast are all confirmed. To which,
Bestials are gonna be probably a big one in there, obviously.
with GG said, yep.
That might be one of the biggest ones because a lot of decks are kind of hit right now from those sets.
I mean, just think of the best cards from those sets.
I mean, Labyrinth will be in there, obviously. Adventure package, the my Kinko.
Makanko.
Hey man, whatever you want to call it, I don't judge, brother. Things like that from that, Per Lily probably gonna get a few. No, wait, no. Was that during those sets or prior? That's prior. Yep. That's what I'd go with, and just common hand traps again, because there's a couple sets where they're just reprinting everything. It seems like a big reprint like last 2 years, so I don't see them not putting in just common things again.
I did say to shout outs to Fresh Off the Press. I did just say in his live stream the other day for his birthday that I did agree with that statement, that 2023 is the year of the reprint, because they really have been reprinting everything into the ground, as far as like the 25th anniversary rarities, these side sets, the CRs. They just reprinted all of Dinos and like shiny new stuff. The rarity set that we're about to get, the MegaTins, like everything is on the chopping block, and I don't think that anything is off limits to Konami. Like, they've broken the rules before, and they're gonna warp the rules again.
It makes me think what's coming, because they've been reprinting everything to the ground. So like eventually, like, you know what I mean? They're gonna have to make new busted shit to sell because they've just reprinted the shit so much. I don't know. That's just my theory. It's conspiracy.
Even cards like Droll, just because it was in Tactical Masters, like that's not even really like a card that should be there. But I still agree that that might get higher rarity in the tins. Dimension Force had cards like the Therion, so like Regulus about to get Prismatic Secret treatment. Let's go. Like I said before, Battles of Chaos had like cards there. That would be really well accepted in the Earth Machine community. Battles of Chaos had cards like Illusion of Chaos and Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, both iconic cards to legacy decks that are diehard fans. Grand Creators, you're already starting to see most of the Adventure Engine get reprinted. The Punks are getting reprinted, so whatever they didn't reprint in this set, they're just going to redo in the MegaTins.
Well, you know that Brandon's already going to get like 18 slots here because they need to finish off the structure.
They don't deserve any of these motherfucking slots, though. I'm so tired of this fucking branded fucking gimmick, dog. Let them just die. Didn't they end last fucking core set? Let them die. It's Kashtira's turn to reign. Until they inevitably, as Yugioh says, hit Fenrir. But that's not going to happen. We don't speak that. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
I think it's the Synchro turn, dog. I think your XYZ era is over. They need to sell
Nah,
it.
we're on there. So before we close out the podcast, guys, because we've been rambling for a while now, we just like to do the favorite segment from you guys, which is the People's Choice questions. So we rattle off. We asked you in the Discord server, which if you guys are not a part of, you can go down to the Linktree server down below
Where
and
your
click
opinion
on Discord and vote. Yeah, where your opinion half matters. Where I'll look at it and laugh, but we'll probably honor it somewhat. But we have 2 questions from people who have answered the People's Choice questions for GGYGO, and they go as followed. Speaking of him, one of them is, ask him if I want to collab with him, how would we go about making that happen? That comes from Fresh Off the Press, so shout out to him and his YouTube page. He is a Market Watch connoisseur, so be sure to go over there and follow him. But how would he collab with you? If he wants to collab with you, how would he go about doing so?
Usually that's going to be just DMing on Twitter, on Discord, even Instagram. Sometimes I'm on there. I'm not. Sometimes I honestly forget that I have an Instagram. But it's one of those things where if there is a time to do it, then absolutely. I really have a lot with work and with doing my own content. So I always try to make time when I can. So just if I don't respond right away, just keep DMing me. I'll
This
figure
is
out a time
proof.
for it.
I've messaged him like 8 times, but it is what it is. He's a busy man. We all know that. Like, so you're more open to like collabing with people? It's not like something because like I interviewed DPYGO and he said that he doesn't really tend to collab with people just because he just doesn't like to. So like, do you like have the same like mentality, or is just like, yeah, like if you make content, I'll mess with you?
I think that it's more so like if your content aligns, right? Or if you have different things that you think would be very cool to talk about in a video, or the timing in the game, where like, for example, if a ban list drops and then you go to a channel that has like a lot of information, usually around like a ban list or like just pumping out decks right away. We see some channels that are really good about this, putting out like replays and whatnot, like immediately after a list. Then let's say you want to do a segment on something like that, then the collab makes sense. Or if you do a tier list video with somebody else who is very known in the game or does tier lists themselves, it makes sense. So as long as the collab makes sense or like the idea is good, then I have no problem with it. If the idea doesn't align, then potentially it's making a different idea and trying to do a different show.
So as long as you come with some original OG stuff, you're more or less impressionable to do it.
Yeah, like I've had people try to do like other series that are already a thing with me, and I'm like, I don't really want to do something that's already being done, because then you're just like recycling. And I like anything that I do is always like
Organic,
original content, organic. It's nothing. I've never clickbaited a single video, and I never will. It's something that I've always talked to people. I will never do that. I don't want to do that. I don't think that that's something that will ever end up happening on my channel. So it's just like, it just has to make sense is my short answer.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's nice.
Yeah. So getting back into it, Mel from our brother podcast, Heart of the Podcast, give them a little watch and tune in if you ever have the opportunity. It's a great group of guys. But he asked, why did you become a Yu-Gi-Oh coach? And why should someone invest in a coach when there's free resources on YouTube and such like that, even your own content that you put out?
So this is something that I get asked quite frequently about like coaching at Metafy and like why I do that. And that's honestly just because it's one of those things where you can learn as much as you can learn, right? Like you can hear how to hand trap in a video. You can go watch a combo video on how to play a deck. You can learn your YouTube combo, right? Like 100%. Like you can go and you can get as much knowledge down as possible. But when it comes down to how do you respond to situations in an event, how do you know how to like interact with an opponent who is being like difficult to deal with? How do you keep your cool if you lose? If you're in a really difficult situation and you show me a replay and we talk about how you could have played better out of that situation, or whenever you're in a spot where you don't know what route to take, those are things that can't be answered just by watching a video. Those are things where I think that even myself. There's things in life that I will 100% reach out. Even in Yu-Gi-Oh, I'll reach out to other people and I'll be like, hey, is just from an outside perspective, like, is there anything here that I could have done better? And a lot of the professional air quote players that you would deem professional, right? Like those players also talk to other players about plays that they could have done better or things they could do better or learn something from
Yeah.
them. You can learn something from anyone, but I think that if you're going off the basis of I'm going to watch a couple of videos and I'm going to be the number one player, I don't think that's ever going to be 100% accurate. There's a non 0% chance that you'll go with all this information and not know what to do with it. Whether you're going to a tournament and you want to do well, or if you have a couple ideas, I don't think that it's a bad idea if you have no one to bounce it off of in your local community or someone that you deem like that professional player. That if you find someone who you deem is, or someone who you deem to have more information than you to bounce ideas off of, I don't think that that's a bad idea at all. Because at the end of the day, the more that you can learn, this is the most complicated game out there. So that's something where you should take as much advice as you can. You should try to get as much information out or just bounce ideas, because at that point you're going to be growing in the game.
Yeah, I could agree. Just having multiple backgrounds in other games, Xavier is nothing in other games. Fucking scrum. You
Just
could
on Yu-Gi-Oh, baby.
going in and out of different card games. Coming back to Yu-Gi-Oh is always the hardest and the most like challenging to me, just because it's its own separate language on cards. You know what I mean? Like in how you have to read it and rulings and all that shit. New rulings come up with stuff like that. So I could completely agree with this game being the fucking hardest out of all of them, and needing a coach for it. You know, like X needs a coach sometimes.
Yeah, honestly, everyone I think needs a coach, and that, as he was saying, like it applies to outside of Yu-Gi-Oh as well. Like there's a difference between like hearing the info or seeing the info, and then having it like applied in a way that you yourself can digest it. Because everyone's different. Some people are visual learners, some people are hands-on learners, some people like direct content or direct communication. Some people don't like direct communication, like indirect. Like I'm the type of person where I react better to hands-on direct, like contact
100%.
direct communication. You know what I'm saying? So like if I'm in person with you, I'm going to learn more and retain that information more than if I'm just watching replays or like not gaining why this person did this in this situation. Instead of like it's one thing to just say, oh yeah, this person misplayed, and then it's another thing to say, oh well, this person should have done this here instead of here. Like, you know, applying it different than just recognizing that there was a mistake but also correcting it. So, and I think that that's what coaching is for. And I don't have the time for it. So thank God that GG has the time for it. Because although I give a couple free little tidbits at locals and against my opponents, like that's nothing in comparison to what, you know, he's doing for like the actual community. So if you guys need any real coaching, be sure, like he said, Metify at ggygyo.com or whatever the hell it is.
You know how many times I've just watched a video of someone just playing the deck, and then I just want to convince myself so bad that I can just watch this and do it. But yeah, I'm completely hands-on. I don't know if you've been like that. That's why like table locals or, you know, kitchen locals are so important, because a lot of people are just you have to play it and get that experience.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
there's so much free content out there that's absolutely true. And does everyone need a coach? Absolutely not. Like you're gonna be able to do what you can do. And like everyone,
No, they do.
everyone
They
can
do.
only do what they can do though. And I think that if you feel like, you know, you're not getting anywhere like in the game and you don't know what's going wrong, I don't think that it's bad to reach out to someone and be like, hey, like, can you tell me what you think is going on? And if it works, it works. And then not every coach is for every player either. Like some people learn from certain coaches. I've had people come to my channel and they're like, hey, I'm from other coaches. I want to learn this in a different light. So hopefully this is like better. And I've had people go from mine to other coaches and be like, I think that like their coaching style fits me more. And I think that that's something where if you've only had like one coach in your life, that you should try out a different one. Because at that point, like everyone's always going to be to explain things better to someone.
I agree.
All right, guys. And just like that, we are out of life points. Again, we just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, that being Unplugged Gaming out in Manlius, New York. Give them a follow. Check out their store. Head on in. It's one of the nicer, probably the best store in town. So give them a check. We also have our links below. Please follow all of our social media sites. We have a full team on deck. We're pretty much the Avengers of, semi-limited. Xavier, he's the Iron Man and put us all together here. Got a ton
You
of
said
people
the
behind the scenes.
Avengers.
So a lot of people are putting in hard work. Shout out to our team. Great stuff coming here in the future with us. So definitely give everything a follow. Be a part of it. Would you like to give your last? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, what he said. Down in the description box is the link tree. Click it, share it with your friends. Tell them, hey, I'd heard the best podcast in my entire life about Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Here it is. As you guys know, the Box of Wild Survivors is going away on the Instagram for semi-limited. So be sure to follow us on Instagram because we're not going to give it away to someone not following us. And inbox us with a picture of you and your wildest card and tell us briefly why it's your favorite or wildest card that you have, and we'll be doing the drawing by the first week of July. And as we've mentioned before, the merch is down in that same Etsy link. Go cop yourself a shirt, get yourself a hoodie, maybe some sweatpants. We got the mat pins. We're working on sleeves.
We have great sweatpants. So
yeah, we have great. All for all the ladies. You know what I'm saying? You gotta impress them. You gotta make sure you got the print out there. But be sure to go check out that merchandise site, and we'll have everything ready to go for you guys for the YCS. We'll be doing giveaways in person, free cards, free merchandise. So if you guys see us at the Nationals, or if you see Yugioh, as he said, he's probably got some shit on deck too. So be sure to go out there, say hi to all of us, come get your picture taken, come talk to us. We'll even get you as a montage for the Instagram for the blog that we're going to be having for. So, speaking of which, before we close out, is there any last thoughts or any closeout shout outs that you want to give out, GG, before we head out?
Again, just really appreciate you guys having me on the podcast today, and it's always fun to be able to go over a lot of different topics as far as the metagame, and also just kind of talking about things in general, because I feel like a lot of people don't really get the whole dive into a lot of what it takes to post content, how it is around content, and like really making sure that everything's up to date and accurate, because I think that's always going to be the number one thing. Is as long as the content is accurate, if it's competitive, then it's going to be really solid. But I do appreciate having the opportunity to come over here, and I will look forward to that in the future.
There we go. Absolutely, we'd love to have you on. We're gonna be having an episode where we bring on like maybe multiple of the past members or guests that we've had on, like Winter Kills or maybe even Shadow Rabbit. I know you guys have collabed a couple times, or at least reached out in communication. So I'm gonna be sure to bring you guys all back, and we'll all have a discussion on something related to the meta or something. But it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and having you on the podcast was actually an absolute treat. So shout out to Yugioh. All his shit is going to be linked down below. So as you're following our shit, go down there, follow him, his Twitter, his Instagram. Of course, you want to be on there with the YouTube. You want to subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure that every time he drops a Where the Hand Trap, which I think he just did, you want to go make sure you check those out. So shout outs to him, and all love here, brother. No big deal. This is literally what we do. Oh, and we will be giving away some shit on his channel to help reach 20K. So start liking his shit, you heathens.
Thank you again.
Awesome. Yeah. I am the Galone Wolf,
and I am Player X, and we are
Semi-Limited Podcast. Shut the fuck up! I'm doing my fucking thing.